All right. Story time is brought to you by Big Nerm's Bright Ideas, making brighter ideas here. I'm still working on that part. Y'all hush. Story. I grew up in Lincoln County, Mississippi, and as a young boy, I thoroughly enjoyed fishing every chance I got. And there was a creek with a bridge not far from the house I grew up in, and that was my favorite place to fish. And one day I was fishing and I caught a catfish. I pulled him up out of the water and over the rail of the bridge and into my 5-gallon bucket, which was full of water. And I continued to fish, and the catfish flopped out of the bucket. And I wanted to keep him fresh, so I picked him up and put him back in the bucket. And a minute later, catfish flopped out of the bucket again. So I picked him up, put him back in the bucket. This went on for quite a spell. And finally, I just stay out. Let him lay in the dirt like that, as fish tend to do when they're out of water. And came time to go, and he's still alive after all that time. I put him in the bucket of water and started home, and guess what? He jumped out again. But the weird thing about it, I was about to pick him up, but he flopped right to me. Well, that's weird, so I took a step back, and he flopped right to me again. So I gave him the international come on signal, and here come the fish, flopping behind me. And I walked all the way home with that fish flopping behind me, and got home and tried to show him to Mama, and she was like, "You ain't bringing that fish in this house." So I left him in the bucket outside the back door. And the next morning I went out there, and he was still in the bucket, but he came to the top and he was like over the edge of the bucket like a puppy would do. Well, he didn't have paws, but being a fish. But and I gave him the signal again. The fish flopped out. And I started walking. Here comes the fish, flopping behind me. Very talented fish. He didn't really need water. And because of his method of locomotion, I decided to name him Flopsey because he flopped. And we had a lovely time. We had a lovely summer. Everywhere I went, Flopsey went. And I finally rigged him up a little string, leash, and halter, because you know there are leash laws out there regardless of the species of pet. And he went everywhere I did. He even went fishing with me. And this is where Flopsey was a wee bit cold-hearted. He liked for me to catch other fish and throw them in the bucket. And sometimes he'd jump in the bucket with them, and I can only imagine he's probably telling them, "Everything's going to be fine, guys. Going home with him is all going to be fine." Wasn't. But Flopsey slept in my bed with me. I've got pictures of my 9th birthday party, and Flopsey's in the chair right next to me wearing a little pointy hat, and just a wonderful pet and a good friend. And right towards the end of that summer, just before school started, we went fishing, Flopsey and I, and we were crossing the bridge to get down at the end of the bridge, where the deepest part of the river was, where I liked to fish the best. And there was a hole in the plank of the bridge, and Flopsey, I mean 1 in a million shot, fell right down that hole, 20 feet down, bloop, to the water. And guess what? He drowned. It ain't funny. All right, ain't no more stories. Y'all go on.